All right, we're switching classes again for the one and only sniper rifle of this game, the hunting rifle. Used to hunt large game animals. Uses 458 Magnum rounds. Okay, so with that said, here's the ammo for it, the rifle rounds. 458 Magnum rounds, they are used in hunting rifles. In this game's case, there's only one. Okay, so this is a very unique weapon indeed. Outbreak File 1 had no sniper rifle of the sort. I'm not even sure if there was an unused weapon with this. Someone could mention if they know about it, but otherwise I don't think there was. But we have never seen this before in any game prior. We seldom see sniper rifles at all up to this point. As for its real-life counterpart, this is apparently based off of the Sauer 202, a 458 Winchester Magnum type of weapon. So yeah, that's just going to show once again that Magnum doesn't mean revolvers or powerful handguns all the time. It's just a type of ammo that can go into weapons that support it. So there are only two possible locations for the hunting rifle, both of which are in the Wild Thing scenario. Now, one of them I already referenced when going over the Shotgun E, and that's the one that's exclusive to Very Hard mode, where you find it in the back alley, where the Shotgun E would be in every other difficulty. The hunting rifle in those difficulties is instead located in the observation deck. It is inside the open locker in the southwest corner of the room. Now, in every difficulty, it has no rifle rounds that come with it. You have to reload it yourself in every circumstance. Unless, of course, you're playing Infinity mode. Now, here's the extreme close-up of the hunting rifle in-game. I know it's a little high. This is one of the earliest clips we recorded. The two weapons that I show in this scenario didn't really try that hard for, clearly, but it's still got a really satisfying design, especially to the butt of the rifle.
God, that looks amazing.
Now here's the hunting rifle being held by all the characters of the game. Unfortunately, I can't really say much about it other than I like the bolt on the side. All right. Now, when you find the weapon in the scenario, it doesn't have any ammo loaded. You have to find the ammunition separately, and it can only hold 2 bullets at a time.
Yeah!
Sounds a lot like a shotgun in both firing and reloading. Okay, what's interesting is Cindy can handle moving while shooting and reloading just fine. This thing. Seriously, can't freaking do a Magnum? Alright, well, since this is exclusive to the Wild Thing scenario, there is only one, or maybe two, sensible enemies for this weapon. It's pretty much what it's made for. So I'm going to use it against the zoo's beloved mascot, Oscar the Elephant, also known as the Titan. Alright, let's see if there's any range differences here. 1,800 damage it does. Okay, it only did 600 damage right there. Okay, so I can't seem to get a mid-range. Luckily, I anticipated this. I have a different save state with a different enemy prepared just in case. This is a feral, which is a zombie lion. Well, it did 1,800 still, even though I was more at mid-range. Maybe the Titan has some natural armor because it's the boss of the scenario. Because at all ranges against this thing, it's doing 1,800 across the board. So I think the 600 I was experiencing is more armor related than range related. This probably has a consistent range being a rifle and all, like a sniper rifle just without the scope. But yeah, so I just wanted to establish that. So now let's do the proper test against the Titan. How many shots total would it take?
Yeah.
It takes 7 rifle rounds to defeat the Titan. Now, the thing about that is I was only able to do it so easily because, once again, I'm in Infinity mode. In this mode that I'm testing it in, which happens to be Very Hard mode, it only gives you 3 rifle rounds to work with. I'm pretty sure it gives you more rounds in easier difficulties, and you probably could defeat the Titan if you gathered all the rounds. But I think realistically, you wouldn't defeat this thing. You would just trap it, and your final boss would actually be the zombie lion. The Stalker, as it's called, which I think has a smaller health pool, and if you gathered all the ammunition, you would be able to use this weapon to defeat it. Alrighty, well, that's ultimately gonna conclude the hunting rifle. Alrighty, we're getting into the explosive weapons, starting with the grenade launcher. So, the thing about this weapon, as usual with grenade launchers, there's more than one type of ammo, and the thing is, the game regards the weapon based on what rounds are loaded. So, as you see here, it's called G-Launcher Burst Rounds, while I have another grenade launcher in here with acid rounds. Now, this game adds a third type of round that wasn't in the first Outbreak game, and those are flame rounds, which I'll go over in a little bit when I go over each individual ammo type. But as for the grenade launcher itself, regardless of what ammo is loaded, it is described as a weapon which fires rounds, whatever rounds you have loaded. So to differentiate them better, let's go over each individual round. First, you got the burst rounds. Rounds for a grenade launcher that contain flammable compound. Cool. Now, if I switch rounds with this one, now you got the acid rounds. Rounds for a grenade launcher that contain a powerful acid. Okay. The flame rounds are rounds for the grenade launcher that contain a napalm gel. That is taken directly from Resident Evil 3 Nemesis description of flame rounds, I want to say. Alright, now flame rounds were an unused round in File 1, just for your reference, but the grenade launcher only had acid and burst rounds in Outbreak 1. When we compare to Outbreak File 1, the floating model is enlarged a little bit, but the icon is exactly the same. And now, of course, this is a very recognizable grenade launcher, one of the most referenced weapons to date, as this is the M79 grenade launcher that we have seen previously as far back as Resident Evil 2, and then Resident Evil 3 Nemesis in part, Resident Evil Survivor, Resident Evil Code Veronica, Survivor 2 Code Veronica, and then finally in Gaiden in part, and then of course Outbreak 1. Alright, so here's a list of locations to find the grenade launcher in Outbreak File 2. Now which rounds you get depends on the scenario you're playing and the difficulty mode. There's only one single location that's consistent across all difficulties, so I'll show that one. This is in the end of the road scenario in the nursery. It is on the wall in the south corner of the room, but picking it up will trigger a trap, and 1 or 2 hunter mews will be released from capsules. So to avoid the hunters, you need to replace the grenade launcher with a model grenade launcher, which hardcore throws back to Resident Evil 1 with the shotgun trap. Or you could just opt to kill the 1 or 2 hunters after grabbing it. Now in easy mode, this grenade launcher comes with 5 acid rounds. In normal mode, it's 3 burst rounds. In hard mode, it's only 1 burst round. And in very hard mode, it comes loaded with no rounds. Speaking of the model grenade launcher, if you have David on your team, you can create a real grenade launcher out of it by combining it with his junk parts. It's pretty nifty.
Right.
Now here's an extreme close-up of one of Resident Evil's most recognizable grenade launchers, being wielded of course by Hellmaster with Mr. Black in-game. This is an extremely satisfying shot, and once again I'm glad that we can get an angle that stretches across the entire screen for maximum satisfaction. Now here's the grenade launcher being held by all characters once again. And yeah, M79, easily the most recognizable grenade launcher of all Resident Evil games. I really don't think there's any contest. So let's test all of these individual rounds out. I'm gonna start with the burst rounds. And yes, once again, the ammo stacks, so you could load as many rounds into it as you want, which is really convenient. All right, so you can't get a real good look at the round unless I hit it against the ground or something. There you go. And of course, you can't move and shoot with this thing, probably because of the massive recoil. So those are the burst rounds. Now we try the acid rounds out, since we know how it fires now. And now let's see what the flame rounds look like. All right, so a large variety of rounds. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to test all 3 rounds on the same type of enemy. So, I gotta make a decision here. Burst and acid rounds can be tested on the same enemy, and I'll probably use the Tyrant for that. And as for the flame rounds, since they are exclusive to this flashback scenario, I'll test on the Axeman specifically so we could get a damage reading. Starting with burst rounds against the Tyrant. Deals 1,200 damage. Fucking Alyssa and her shotgun. It took a total of 8 explosive rounds to defeat the Tyrant. Now let's switch over to acid rounds. These deal a straight 1,000 against the Tyrant. So naturally, we know it's probably only gonna take 9 rounds.
Please help me.
As I predicted, it took 9 acid rounds to defeat the Tyrant. Slightly weaker than the explosive rounds. Now we gotta load to a different scenario and test out the flame rounds against the Axeman. 1,450 damage that the flame rounds emit, at least against the Axeman, and it defeated him in 2 rounds flat. Now, if that was the Tyrant, it would have taken 7 rounds. So, based on this, the flame rounds are actually the strongest round in the game, which is, peculiar. Alrighty, well, I guess that's gonna ultimately conclude the grenade launcher in all its forms. Alright, now for the ultimate weapon, the rocket launcher. A powerful rocket launcher that launches 84mm rocket rounds. Okay, so again, there is no ammo to reload this with. It only comes with 1 rocket when you equip it. At least improved from Outbreak 1, there is more than 1 that you could find. They are still near the end of the last scenario, but at least you could find more than 1 of them. Once again, this is based off of the M136 AT4 rocket launcher. And we have seen this before in Resident Evil Code Veronica and Survivor 2 Code Veronica. And then if we compare it to its Outbreak 1 counterpart, both the icon and the floating model get massive upgrades, way more detail in the whole look of it. All right, so here's the list of locations for the rocket launcher. It's nice having more than 1 location this time, but it is still very limited, being only in the end of the road scenario, and there is only 1 fixed location across all difficulties. So to show that one, this is under the highway overpass in the urban area downtown, and it is inside the trunk of the silver car parked on the west side of the area. Now, just a warning, this whole area is flooded with proximity explosives, so be careful around here. Now here's an extreme close-up of the rocket launcher. The best adjective I can come up with is tanky. Now here's the rocket launcher once again being held by all of the characters. And once again, this is a good point to emphasize the sheer amount of work I had to do just to get all of these little idle clips. It is totally on me that I decided to do that. None of you demanded it, and I totally could have skipped out on that if I wanted to. But the sheer complexity of this game, I felt like the showcase needed to be equally as complex, so I went all out on this. And yeah, considering there are more than 40 weapons and 8 characters, this was well over 300 individual clips for all of these idle stances alone. And that's still just scratching the surface of the overall showcase entirety. So let's test it out the only way we can. Now this is one of the only weapons that you can't move at all while aiming, obviously because of the way it's aimed. One of the only weapons where you full on kneel to aim. So here we go, here's the firing animation. And now let's aim it at a different angle so you can see the massive fireball that it produces. All right, so there is only one sensible enemy to test this on, really. I'm gonna go ahead and test this on the final boss of the game, the Nyx. All right, so the thing about the Nyx, it has like 3 different forms. The Nyx Core, and the Nyx Tyrant. One shot for the Nyx itself. And I just keep on hitting it there, and it already restored. I got it back dead. Now the Nyx Tyrant is dead. Now for the Nyx Core, which is what matters to defeat it. One shot across the board. Okay, so that's testing the rocket launcher out on an appropriate enemy. However, right after this recording, I found out that you can use the rocket launcher in the extra game modes, including Showdown 3, which has a lot of different enemies to test it against. And I could do it in Infinity mode. So I can do a traditional showcase of cheesing a bunch of enemies with the rocket launcher. It's not every single enemy in the game like I like to do, but it's all of the enemies I possibly can. So enjoy this slideshow. Alrighty, well that was fun, hope you all enjoyed. That is ultimately it for the rocket launcher. Time for the final weapon of the game, the bomb switch, used to set off a tyrant's internal bomb device. Okay, so this is the one and only special weapon of this game. The reason I decided to use it for the very last weapon is because it is likely the final weapon you may use in the game. One of them anyway. And because it has a very special use case. So here's the list of possible locations for the bomb switch. And all of them are contained with the end of the road scenario, since that's the only place where it can be used. Now I'll show you the most common one, which is in easy and normal mode. It is located in the underground waterworks on the first floor. It is on the floor next to the bridge in the northernmost upper walkway, this part here, accessible via the maintenance room. Now here's the final extreme close-up of a weapon in this showcase, of the bomb switch. Rather underwhelming, I have to say, but hey, hope you enjoyed all these extreme close-ups, and many thanks to Hellmaster for participating in getting these. They were really fun to get. And here is the bomb switch, the last weapon to be held by all characters. It in itself obviously doesn't look like any sort of weapon, but it does instantly kill a specific enemy, so it is not to be underestimated. By itself, there is no real way to use it, as you can see here. Just clicks it and goes into a stance. The same exact stance as Alyssa's stun gun, to be exact. But yeah, by itself, it can't be used. You can only use it when the tyrant is around in any sort of capacity. And you can only use it one time in the scenario. So, we're just gonna go straight to the enemy testing for this one. I'll make it interesting. I'll test it on multiple variations of the tyrant, starting with the regular one. Now, you have to be right up against him, really, for this to work. And it's insta-kill, because it's specifically made to dispose the Tyrant. So that's version 1. Now for Tyrant R, has a health pool of 10,000. That's an insta-kill attack, as you'll see, even if you get hit once.
Hey, you!
And finally, you could even use it against the Nyx. It gives you a free down. There you go. Leaves the core wide open for you afterward. And there you go. That is gonna conclude the bomb switch. And that, people, wraps up my ultimate weapon showcase of Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. However, there are still remaining things to go over, starting with unusable weapons that you see featured in the game. First, you got another variant of the H&K MP5. This is the MP5A3, and this is used by Umbrella mercenaries in this cutscene, featuring the introduction of the Nyx.
What the?
Next, you got the H&K PSG-1 sniper rifle, which was also an unusable featured weapon in Outbreak 1. Here it is wielded by UBCS squad leader Arnold, who unfortunately displays a sheer lack of care and observation.
This'll be the 99th rodent I kill. Wait a sec. I think that may be a live one. Well, fuck it.
But has a really cool VA voicing him at least.
Get the hell out there and find them. How long do you... Can you get it through your... Gets out, it will be your neck on the line, not mine.
Okay. That seals off any ground.
Position I'm in.
100.
And finally, you have an FIM-92 Stinger missile launcher. This is the rocket launcher that was featured in Resident Evil 2, and wielded by Nemesis in Resident Evil 3. Here in Outbreak 2, it is wielded by General Administration Manager Tommy Nielsen of Umbrella, a weasel-like character that is very forgettable. So there are the unusable weapons. Now to go over unused or cut weapons. Now this is a bit of a gray area when it comes to Outbreak in particular. It's hard to distinguish whether they were cut from Outbreak 1 or File 2. So the cut weapons that I mentioned at the end of Outbreak 1's showcase, those are going to stay on that showcase, and I'm only going to mention additional ones that I apparently missed here. For this, I'm going to use information provided by Kendo Gun Shop's channel. I'll link the videos that I drew from in the description of this video, and honestly, you should check them out because they go over a lot of the unused weapons I already mentioned in Outbreak File 1 showcase, but in much greater detail. So alongside all the cut weapons I mentioned at the end of Outbreak 1's showcase, video card on the top right hand corner if you want to see that first, there was an unknown revolver that was only seen in pre-release images for the then titled Resident Evil Online. There's no concrete information on what this revolver was based on. My personal guess would be the Colt Python. Then there was another Magnum revolver that was supposed to be the Smith & Wesson Model 500. According to Kendo Gun Shop in the video, the inventory icon is only available in File 2. So it's possible this was specifically for File 2, but then was cut. The end-game weapon name was Model 500, and it was described as a new type of Magnum revolver, uses customized 500 type rounds. And that being said, it also had its own ammo, apparently, that were known as high-power revolver rounds, and described as 500 type rounds used for the 500 model. Now, I think it's unfortunate that this was cut from the game, because if it hadn't been, then this would have been the first game to feature the Smith & Wesson Model 500, not Resident Evil 4. And that's it for additional cut weapons. I covered a majority of them in the first game showcase, but just missed one or two here. If there's anything else possibly out there, then unfortunately it's not going to get mentioned here now that the video is uploaded. And this was the only opportunity for it after Outbreak 1. Maybe when I return to this game 10 to 20 years from now for the third remaking era, we'll see. Ha! Alright, so with that, it is time to finally tally up Resident Evil Outbreak File 2's weapon count to the total weapon count of the game series so far up to this point. Now, Outbreak 1 got us up to 148. Add the additional 46 from this game, regardless that a lot of them are duplicates. We are already at 194 weapons in the franchise between Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. Wow, okay. Now, if you're watching this after release, it's probably just another video in the bag for you, but you don't understand the developmental nightmare that this showcase has been. The people that were waiting for it from start to finish, they may have an idea of what I'm talking about. Like, the formula I follow to showcase weapons is simple enough, but to do 46 weapons and 8 different characters brandishing them, that takes the complexity to an unfathomable level. And I'm just glad it's all over finally, and I could return to some sort of normalcy for weapon showcases. On that subject, the next game to get an ultimate weapon showcase will be Resident Evil 4. And believe me when I say, I am just as excited to produce that showcase as my community is to receive it. However, it is not going to be the next video that I produce. In case you forgot or weren't aware, my second remaking era was all about remaking not only weapon showcases, but melee move showcases as well. And we're right on the line of the generation of games that heavily emphasize that element. So before I begin any content on Resident Evil 4, melee or weapon otherwise, I need to create a brand new compilation video of any melee that can be seen in the classic games, based on parameters that constitute a melee move on my channel, which are usually defined as any sort of move that deals some sort of impact on the enemy, whether or not it causes damage. So this includes escape maneuvers sometimes. The video on my channel that this is ultimately going to replace is the classic head stomp montage, if anyone has seen that. So it'll at least include all of those head stomp animations from that video, plus more if I deem anything else necessary. So that's what you have to look forward to, is an ultimate compilation of melee moves from the classic games, prior to Resident Evil 4. Alrighty, so to finally and officially conclude, this is Shankster94, aka the Gamer Shankster. Slap a like, leave a comment, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell and make sure it's set to all, so you get notified whenever I upload brand new content. Follow me on all social medias listed here, they're in the description as well, and shout out to Feargale the Fearless for being a dedicated patron on my Patreon. And feel free to join my community Discord, Shankster Sub. It's the best way to gain insight on the progress of my projects, and just to chat amongst mutual community members and Resident Evil lovers alike. Just make sure that if you do, that you follow the instructions provided in the public channels. And that's all I'll say on that. And one more shout out to my follower and friend Hellmaster221 for providing the extreme close-ups of all the weapons, and displaying comedic background antics during the location bits of the weapons. And one final shout out to evilresource.com for letting me use their webpage to provide valuable information on all of the locations of the weapons. Alrighty then, see y'all next time in the Ultimate Classic Melee compilation. Peace out, Godspeed, goodbye Outbreak for a long time.